Today, I'm giving a health talk on tips for living with diabetes and hypertension, heart diseases. As you know that we are the capital of diabetes in the world, and uh, and sorry for technical. Good morning, friends. Today, I'm giving a health talk on tips for living with diabetes and heart diseases. You know that heart diseases and diabetes are like conjoined twins. They have a relationship like that. In our country, more than 70% of the diseases, medical diseases, are combined with the heart and the diabetes. We are called as the capital of diabetic capital of the world. Almost 1.6 million people die of heart disease in India, and we have more than 25 million diabetics in India. So that means every 33 seconds we are losing one patient due to heart disease. So that is the enormity of the disease pattern in our population. So therefore, I thought that it's imperative on my part to um, give highlights regarding the diabetes and the heart diseases and how to prevent it as well as manage it. My parts I have divided into two portions. The first portion is those who lives with disease, like those who have diabetes and heart disease, how to live with it. And my second part will be more interesting, where we want who wants to prevent the disease to occur. So it's always we give a lot of importance for preventive cardiology. Let us come for my first talk is on those who have diagnosis of diabetes and how to manage. Now, if you are diabetic, nothing to worry because it is only the management of diabetes which matters. So, we diagnose diabetes by various investigations, particularly for the fasting sugar or postprandial sugar. Nowadays, we give a lot of importance to HbA1c, that is called glycosylated hemoglobin, because the diagnosis is done by glycosylated hemoglobin because the fasting sugar and postprandial sugar may vary. So normal glycosylated hemoglobin is less than 6. That means we are not diabetic if it is less than 6. And between 6 to 6.5 is pre-diabetes. And above 6.5, diabetic starts. And above 7.0, we start treating the patient. Apart from the diagnosis using HbA1c, when we establish diabetes, we also look at their lipid profile, that is the cholesterol. We look at their creatinine, and also we look at their blood pressure and any other concomitant heart diseases associated with diabetes. Also, we check it with various investigations. One thing we should know is about the weight. Obesity is a very common factor as far as the diabetes disease is concerned. So most of the obese patients can develop diabetes. Therefore, obesity matters a lot. Now, if you look at the ideal weight is measured as the height in centimeter minus 100 into zero point 0.9. And therefore, we should look at the ideal weight for a diabetic patient. So we have to keep our weight checked under control. And also we should look at the waist and waist hip ratio as well as the BMI. And depending on that, we try to control the diabetes. Suppose if your weight is reduced in diabetic ideal weight, even diabetic control is better. Now, when we look at the different levels of obesity, we also, it runs in family also. As you know that if both parents are obese, there is a 80% chance that the siblings are obese. At the same time, if one parent is obese, then there is a 40% chance of being obese. And if none of them are obese, which happens in many of our family, then at least there is a 10% chance that we can become obese. So this is how and also what is matters is nowadays the childhood obesity. Suppose if you are obese at the age of 18 years, then it tracks the diabetes as well as the heart disease in older age, that is above the age of 30 and 40. Therefore, childhood obesity, lot of importance is being given. Now, coming to what is the reason why we should give so much importance to obesity? Because when we grade the obesity, we grade according to the body mass index. to 25, above 25 to 30, 30 to 35, and above 35 to 40 and above 40. So it depends the morbid obesity if somebody has got more than 40. Ideal BMI is to be around 25, and lower than 25 is also called low BMI, which is also not good. And uh, when I speak to the public, I tell obesity has three types of grading. One is lovable, laughable, and pitiable. Suppose as your BMI keeps increasing, it comes to a stage of pitiable stage. So if we are around BMI around 25 to 26, it is less than 30, it is lovable type of obesity. Apart from why we give so much importance for obesity is because not only the onset of diabetes is frequent in them, onset of heart diseases, heart failures, then infertility, stroke, even polycystic ovarian disease, obstructive sleep apnea, and cancers, osteoarthritis of knees and other things. These are the multiple diseases which can be associated with obesity. Therefore, I think we should keep a check on our weight. Apart from this one, diabetes is the next diet. As I always tell the patients that if you are diabetic, 50% of diet control is required along with 50% the drug control. So a lot of questions are asked from various physicians and diabetologists that what type of diet I eat. It is a long process to explain. Simply, I should tell that we advise diet by the glycemic index of uh, the food what we eat. Say, for example, what is glycemic index? Glycemic index means it is the ability of food to raise your blood sugar level. So suppose if you take simple sugar like white sugar, suddenly your blood sugar will go up. So those food which has got higher glycemic index, that should be avoided, like simple sugar, jaggery, honey, and other cereals like rice and wheat also, they have higher GI, around 70 and 72. And it's a myth saying that wheat is better, the chapatis are better than rice. No, it is not like that. Both wheat and rice have same glycemic index. Even the bakery products and baked potatoes have higher glycemic index. So in diabetic, we advise you to restrict the food which has got higher GI. But what is left for us to eat? The other one, those food which has got lower GI, that is glycemic index, like fruits, then legumes, peanuts, soya, protein, lentils. These are all the things which can be utilized in diabetic patients. And particularly when a lot of people ask whether I can eat fruit, diabetic, yes, fruit can be taken because it's a natural sugar. However, in fruits also, we have two different type of fruits. Some of them have low GI, some of them have very high GI. The one which has got low GI is orange, apple, pomegranates, papaya. They have low GI. When compared to the fruits like banana, mango, and chiku, they have high GI. They have almost 70 is their GI. And when compared to orange and apple, which is 40. So fruits can be consumed, but the quantity has to be restricted, unlike non-diabetics. Now, apart from that, we are going to look at the what are the food which is yes for the patients with diabetes. Those which say yes for the patients of diabetes is, as I've already told, the fruits, the nuts, the soya, peanuts, lentils, as well as the lean meat like skinless poultry, as well as fish, and try to avoid the red meat, as well as maida, bakery products, and less oil. No sugar free also should be used. So these are all the some of the tips which I want to give for diabetic patients, because as such diabetes and diet is a very big process to explain. Now the question comes is, why should we control our diabetes? Yeah, diabetes has to be well controlled, because if you control your diabetes very well, the long-term complications are less. So therefore, our HbA1c should be somewhere between 7 to 8. For elderly people, we target our HbA1c around 8, but for younger people, we target our HbA1c to 7. Now, why should we control diabetes? Because you know that diabetes also increases the incidence of heart diseases. So in my experience, for the more than 3 decades of my cardiology practice, I found I have done almost 28 to 29,000 have undergone an angiogram with me. And these, when I look at their coronary anatomy, I feel that some of the things I want to tell you is that those who have diabetes, they have smaller coronary arteries. The size of the arteries are small. They have diffuse disease, multiple diseases are there. And also, when we do some procedure like an angioplasty or bypass surgery, the complication rates are high in them. And in the sense, the follow-up, they come with more of repeat procedures, like re-blockages in the bypass graft or reblockages in the stented artery. These are all some of the things which are very common in diabetic group, and therefore they also have higher incidence of LV dysfunction. The heart function will try to reduce because of the small vessel disease which they have it. So they have actually in diabetic, unless you control very well, they have 3 to 5 fold increase of heart diseases. So therefore, we give a lot of importance in for HbA1c control in diabetics. And therefore, we also look at their lipid profile. And the medications, as far as medication is concerned, as you know that there are some newer medications which has come into market. And these medications not only control the sugar in diabetes, they are also very helpful to reduce the incidence of heart failure in those with heart diseases. Also, they will reduce the incidence of artery blockages in those with diabetes. So there are very brand new medications which have come. In long term, it is very helpful to us. Now, the other important question the people will ask us is whether diabetic is genetic inheritance. Yes, it is a genetic inheritance. As you know that we have 2 types of diabetes. One is type 1 diabetes, which is called insulin dependent diabetes, where they have their insulin production is very less. So they are dependent on insulin, which is occurs in younger age. And the second one is the type 2 diabetes, that is a non-dependent, non-diabetic in the non-insulin dependent diabetes, in the sense that their production of insulin is less, not zero, but however they have insulin resistance. So thus, if you look at the genetic inheritance, those with type 1, that is we call it as IDDM, insulin dependent diabetes. If a man has got a IDDM, there is a 1 in 17 chance that child will get diabetes. If a woman has got IDDM, there is 1 in 25 chance that child will become diabetic. If both man and woman are diabetic, then they have 1 in 10 chance of becoming diabetic. This is as far as insulin dependent diabetes. What about the genetic inheritance in non-diabetes, NIDDM, that is the type 2 diabetes? In them, actually, there is a genetic inheritance, but also the environmental factors also play along with that. So therefore, we have to look at that point, very important, and diabetic has to be managed that way. Now, coming to what are the myths about diabetes? Very important. These myths has to be clarified to the public. First thing is that they say that my fasting sugar is normal, so I have no diabetes. It is a myth, because there are also lots of WhatsApp forwards and other Facebook literature which say some of the people keep on telling that the fasting sugar was unnecessarily reduced to 100, 110 because of the pharma industries backed in the studies. This is not totally true, but we should also know that we do not diagnose a person diabetes only by fasting sugar. And most of the time in our practice, we feel that most of the diabetics, their fasting sugar is always normal, but most of them, particularly Indians, they have higher postprandial sugar. That is, after taking food, if you do it, their sugar is higher side, which is also deleterious to the body. So therefore, we look at every 3 months, we do HbA1c, that is glycosylated hemoglobin, and target our medication accordingly. Now, the second myth is whether diabetic comes only in old age. It is a wrong concept, because diabetic can occur in younger age group with a insulin dependent diabetes. And also there is another myth is that the insulin dependent diabetes may not happen only in the little older age. It is not true. So therefore, suppose if somebody is having a 5 to 10 years and more than 10 years of diabetes, long-standing diabetes also, sometimes their insulin requirement is also there. The third myth about diabetes is it is common in obese individuals only. No, it is not true. even the thin-built people also can get diabetes. Fourth one, which I like to highlight, is gestational diabetes. It's a very important fact that pregnancy also can induce diabetes temporarily. Most of the pregnant women, if they are diabetic during their pregnancy, they become 90% of them become normal in the post-pregnancy. Only 10% of them will continue to have persistent diabetes after the delivery also. But one of the recent studies have shown that if your sugar, which is high in the pregnancy, you have delivered and you have become normal, but these people are followed after 5 to 10 years, they become diabetic. So that means to say that if you have a gestational diabetes, that is diabetes during pregnancy, you have to be followed up very carefully even after delivery, because there's a increased incidence of you becoming permanent diabetes by end of 5 to 10 years. So all you need is how to manage your diabetes. First thing with regular glycosylated hemoglobin every 3 months, regular BP checkup, cholesterol checkup. If it is high, it should be treated, because most of the diabetic require anti-cholesterol tablet. So it is a, even if your lipid profile, the cholesterol levels are normal, you should be given a statin, that is the anti-cholesterol tablet. Then, of course, no smoking, increase physical activity, because if you are physically active, your diabetic level can be well controlled with minimal medications. The other thing what I suggest is to use a smartwatch, because smartwatch will help you to know your physical activity, whether you, how much time you are sitting, how much time you are moving, what is your physical endurance also can be made up. Now, other regular medications, because most of you suggest that please do not injure your foot, because if an ulcer in the foot, always it tries to heal very late. So foot care is very important. Eyes has to be cared, because you have to get a ophthalmologist checkup of the diabetic changes in the eyes can be checked by the ophthalmologist every year, and also kidney functions also has to be assessed very clearly. So this is how we look at the diabetic. Now coming, let us go for the heart disease. Now, most important question, because nowadays you see a lot of young people also getting disease. Lot of deaths occur in younger people less than 40 years of age. We have the highest incidence of heart diseases below 40 years of age. We find lot of patients who are especially very physically active. You might have seen recent studies, recent incidences of sports people getting heart attack, and at a younger age, despite they are very physically active. So therefore, there will be always, there is a mind in the public saying, why should we get, why we are prone for heart disease? We have we have a peculiar thing as being South Asian or Indians, because when we look at their coronary anatomy, we have very small vessel disease. At the same time, we have increased genetic inheritance, and there is also increased incidence of diabetes among us, also increased incidence of smoking, and therefore we get a lot of patients below 40 years heart attack patients. Now, there was one study which I like to highlight. It is called Masala study. This study was done in California, USA. There they studied those people who are migrated from India and settled in US. So they did study on their heart disease incidence and compared with the local white. They found that the incidence is very high in those who have migrated from India. Also, they found in the study, those who have migrated and produced their children, those children who are born in US also have a higher incidence of heart disease when compared to the local white population. So therefore, we have to be very careful about the heart diseases. Now, how to manage the heart disease? Let me tell first. The management is first the diagnosis. Your heart disease is diagnosed by a physician or a cardiologist by various investigation, which includes ECG, echo, treadmill, then further investigations like angiogram if needed. And afterwards, you will be put on some medications. Please note this very carefully, that those medicines which are prescribed for you, at no reason you should stop it, because some of the medications will have a rebound effect. That means if you stop it, the heart diseases comes in a bigger way, or the event can occur immediately. So none of the medicine should be stopped without the medical monitoring. Then some of the medications, as you know, that aspirin is given lifelong, aspirin or aspirin-like drugs, as well as the statin, that is the cholesterol-lowering tablet. So there is also a myth among the people that cholesterol-lowering tablet should not be taken. It is wrong. At the same time, we do the investigation regularly as and when required and treat accordingly. So the newer investigations also can be done, like an angiogram if required, or we can even do the calcium scoring in CT scan to find out and prognosticate and find out which group of patients people are at higher risk. And there is another important topic which I want to highlight is a strong family history. This is very common, rare to find out, but we are nowadays finding a lot of people who have a strong family history. What do you mean by strong family history? That means if your parents have disease of proved heart disease below the age of 45 to 50 years, that means you have a precocious onset of diabetes, the heart disease in the family. That means if parents have less than 45, 50 years having a heart attack or proved heart disease, the children should be very careful, because you have the strong family history is a very strong indication for getting heart disease early. So in those patients, normally I do the angiogram directly. We have to do angiogram. We should not depend on non-invasive investigation like ECG, echo, TMT, because that may not detect. So most of this group of patients, we do angiogram directly. Apart from that, we advise them medications and diet, physical activity, stress management is very important, which I am going to highlight in my second part. Yoga, meditation, these are all the things which are very much required. Now, what are the myths in the public about heart disease? These are all very interesting myths I have noted. First thing is that say, I'm thin built and I'm vegetarian, I won't get heart disease. It is not true, because thin built and vegetarian also are equally prone for heart disease. The second myth is that I'm physically active, I do exercise regularly, I go for walking, I won't get heart disease. No, it is not true. The third myth is that I'm very strict diet and I don't take red meat and other things. So whether I will get a disease? No, you can get a disease because there are multiple other factors. The fourth myth is that I have a strong genetics background. My elders, my ancestors have lived more than 90 years. So I won't get the heart disease. It is not totally true, because if your elders have lived more than 80, 85 years, 90 years, you have an advantage of having 3 years additional life for you. But it's not that you won't get disease. The other myth is that I'm obese, hence I'm prone for heart disease. May not be true, need not be. The other one is I'm a pure non-vegetarian, I'm prone for heart disease. Need not be. So my cholesterol is normal, therefore I won't get heart disease. Need not be. So these are all the myths. Then the question comes is, if these are all true, then why I should follow exercise and diet, and if none of this will help us to prevent a heart disease? It's a very good question. You see, the question is that when we look at the risk factor, we look at not the individual risk factor. Suppose if individual risk factors helps you to come out with a lesser number of diseases, it doesn't mean that when we add the risk factors, overall, it is the overall risk factors which you are exposed. There are some risk factors which it is not in your hand. Say, for example, genetic inheritance, not in your hand. Environmental risk factors like air pollution, not in our hand, because if you are living in a metro cities, you are exposed for air pollution, which increases the heart disease. So therefore, some of the risk factors which can be modified, which is in our hands, we should look at it. So now comes to the second part of my talk, is that can we prevent diabetes and heart disease? Yes, to some extent, we can prevent or delay the onset of heart disease. Now, for example, what is an achievement by an individual? According to me, if you are aged around 50 or 60 years or 70 years, if you have not got any disease like diabetes or heart disease, that itself is a greatest achievement. So you have to achieve not for acquiring the wealth, for getting a good health. If that is the thing, then you have achieved the best in the world. Because now, for example, this modification of lifestyle modification, which I told you about diet and exercise, can delay the onset of diabetes. can prevent the onset of diabetes and also can delay the onset of heart disease. So what are the lifestyle measures which normally you know it is diet, exercise. I told you about the exercise. Exercise is that isotonic exercise is advised for you. And also along with that, minimal weights and stretch exercise. Isotonic exercise is brisk walking, then treadmill, then swimming. So these are all the isotonic exercise which can be inculcated in our atmosphere. So we have to walk at least, we have to have at least 30 to 45 minutes of moderate intensity exercise protocol in at least 5 days in a week. 30 to 45 minutes exercise, five days in a week is the minimum, whatever the American Heart Association recommends. So this will help us to keep ourselves fit. Because of that, our weight also will be managed. Then the other one is about the yoga and yoga. Yoga is very helpful for us to monitor our heart functions as well as the hypertension. There are relaxation measures. You have to know how to relax. So these are called stress busters. Now, what are the way in which we can relax? We can relax in a different way. Some of the points which I want to tell you how to relax is, so do not take any medication, no sedative or anxiety relieving drugs. So it should be non-pharmacological way of relaxation. Let me tell you some hints. So the best way to relax is hearing music or singing, which I do it, and playing instruments is very good. And gardening is also a type of relaxation. Reading books, then some cultural activities, then social interactions, then pets. Having pets at home is a stress buster. And also you should take some psychological measures like suppose apart from this is a way in which stress can be managed. Apart from the medications, meditations is also very important, and spiritual health is also very important, because overall health is includes spiritual health also, apart from the weight management. The most important thing which is asked by many people is, suppose if they get a disease or heart disease as well as diabetes, they get depressed. They are psychologically down, thinking that so everything is over. No, nothing is over. Don't worry. We have to instill a lot of confidence in you. That is because that is called, if somebody gets a heart attack, they think, why me? Why it has affected me? Because I'm very strict diet and all those things. Usual the thinking will come to that. Suppose if unfortunately the disease comes to you, we have to be very confident of tackling it. We will be very happy to tackle it and make it normal, almost normal. But only thing is we have to follow some strict rule, like following medications or following the doctor's advice. So we need not worry why it is me who got affected, because the depression, the loss of confidence, the fear and the anxiety can also be tackled by involving and in this type of relaxation activities, as well as the building confidence measures will lead to normal life. So therefore, what I normally suggest is, what is your goal in life? Your goal in life should be the following. Achieve the following, you will have a very good life. One is ideal weight. Then a controlled BMI, that is basal metabolic index. Then waist less than 90. Waist hip ratio 0.88, less than that. Blood pressure, ideal blood pressure will be around less than 140/90. Suppose if you are diabetic, should have less BP, around 120/80. Fasting sugar less than 110. LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, less than 100. Triglyceride, which is also a bad cholesterol, less than 180. Good cholesterol, which is HDL, more than 45. And HSCRP, some of the measures which we do to know the risk factor, is between 1 to 2. No smoking, increased physical activity, healthy diet, and a very good sleep. Very important is, suppose we don't give importance to sleep. If you have to have a 6 to 8 hours of sound sleep, not with sound sleep, in the sense that there should not be any obstructive sleep apnea. So sound sleep, the undisturbed sleep of 6 to 8 hours is very helpful for immunological buildup. So my health mantras today, I'll conclude with my health mantras. I have 5G mantras. The first G is good food. Second G, good exercise. Third G, good sleep. Fourth G, is good genes. These four G's are very important. And please note that there is one more 5G which is more important than this 4G is God's blessings. And although I tell all these things, and also I also believe in following whatever I tell rather than just giving a lecture. So I follow most of the things which I have told you by being physically active and also relaxing. I hope that my 5G mantras will help you with a good health, and I pray for your good health. Thank you so much.